TG Geeks, episode 54, January 4th, 2016. May the Force be with you.
And also with you.
Hello and welcome to another webcast from tggeeks.com, where Ben and Keith, the Two Gay Geeks, talk about all aspects of geekdom and nerdery. Sci-fi, comics, film, horror, genre, you name it, we talk about it. I am Keith Lane, and we're coming to you from TG Squared Studios in lovely 2016 Phoenix, Arizona.
And I'm Ben Raggington, also coming to you from... Keith and I are both getting over colds. Phoenix, Arizona.
Yes, and we have a special little interview, deep geeking interview for you, and there are spoilers ahead. If you have not seen The Force Awakens,
There to be spoilers here.
There are going to be spoilers. And yes, folks, that means that we are going to talk about Star Wars this week.
What's that?
Star Wars? Oh, hell, I don't know. What is that?
Didn't some movie just come out like a couple of days ago?
Oh, that's right, The Force Awakens.
Oh, that's it.
And we have a special guest with us this time. We have Dr. Christy Hartman, or sometimes known as C.A. Hartman of the Corvallis Chronicles. Welcome, Christy.
Hello. Thanks for having me, guys.
Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. Exactly.
It's fun to be back. I'm so excited.
Oh, we're glad to have you back so we could talk about this.
Yeah, because we'd talked about it last time of doing a deep geeking on the Star Wars once it came out. And now that it's come out and we're into the new year, we're going to kind of, talk about some spoilers, if you will. So
and I think
if
it's
anybody's listening and you didn't know, there are going to be spoilers in this show.
And if you have not seen the movie by now, by the time this show is out, shame on you.
Yeah. Okay, so let's just start. Christy, what did you think of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens?
Well, my overall short answer is I really liked it a lot. I liked it from beginning to end, and I didn't really have a single complaint about it. And that was a real pleasure because, when I saw those prequels, like many, years and years ago, I was, I'm not that picky about Star Wars. It had been so long since, the originals that I thought, okay, well, I don't expect much from the prequels, and I was so disappointed. So when I went into this, I thought, okay, we'll see what happens, and I loved it.
Well, being that you're a writer, what was it about this new movie that really impressed you as opposed to the prequel trilogy? Was there something in the storytelling? Were there story elements, characters? What were the things, the positive beats for The Force Awakens that resonated with you?
I think that they did a good job connecting with the audience. I think there are a lot of ways they went about doing that. For one thing, I thought it was better acted. I'm not sure what happened with the prequels, especially since there were such strong actors in it. I'm not sure what happened with that. In this case, they felt like they belonged in those roles. From a writing standpoint, I thought it was paced well. They kept it simple. They didn't overcomplicate it or introduce strange elements. And I think their heavy use of paying homage to the episode 1, I think some people didn't like that, but I did. I thought it was a wise move on their part. I think it helped connect those of us who grew up in the original Star Wars era, brought us back to what we loved about the originals while still moving forward into the new era of Star Wars.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. And I remember watching this one and saying, oh my gosh, they're throwing so many things, or they're bringing so many things back and paying homage to all of the different things. I was old enough that I saw Star Wars in the theater. I was 17 whenever it opened up. And, so I saw it with my little brother who was 7. And it was incredible then, and this was as incredible this time, to see familiarity and the different things that you could, pick up and say, oh my gosh, wow, that's a throwback.
Yeah. Yeah, there was so much of that. And I think that element is going to be, a source of criticism for some,
Well,
that they pay too much homage, right?
It has been,
Yeah.
There's been
I've
some
seen a
people.
lot.
Yeah, there are a few of my friends, not many. Most everybody I know has just been absolutely in love with this movie. I do have a couple of friends, one or two, that just really panned it badly because in their minds they saw this as nothing more than a regurgitation of episode 4, which I don't entirely agree with.
No.
I mean, I saw it as it had elements, and as we said, it had homage to episodes. Actually, there was some homage, from all 3 of the original trilogy movies, but it was a unique story, which I thought is what helped it to really stand out. Plus, I think JJ did a magnificent job with the direction, and something that also doesn't get discussed much in movie making is editing.
Yeah,
because editing can make or break a film.
Absolutely. It's huge.
Yeah, we watched something. What were we watching the other day? That was something it was one of the Christmas movies we were watching, and there's a scene that just kind of leaves you hanging, and I said, wow, that was a badly edited. I feel like there was something missing from that scene, that it should have gone on, but you didn't really get that with Star Wars. But we've only seen it once. Shame on us.
Well, we haven't
We've
had
been
time.
busy.
I want to see it again too, but yeah, and I meant episode 4. It's you understand probably why I called it episode 1.
Yeah.
It is, but it's really not. It's episode
4. Us old farts, we refer to it as episode 1 when in reality it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is episode 4. Yes, listeners, before you start sending the hate mail, we know what we're talking about.
Yes, New Hope. We're talking about New Hope.
Yes, we call it episode 1 because it was the first one to come out.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I love the homage because I really think, I don't know, I almost feel like it was necessary to kind of win back the trust of the fans again after, the prequels were a disappointment, I think, to many, and I think the homage helped us feel like, okay, we're back in the game again, and I think the next 2 will be probably a little bit more standing on their own and a little bit more quote-unquote unique, but I liked it the way it was. I wouldn't have changed it.
Well, I have read interviews with the actress who played Rey, saying that she's read the script for episode 8 and she thought it was very good. So I think we're all very excited about there. And one of the positive things is walking out of this theater when we saw it, it really brought back a lot of the really fun discussion among fans. I remember when we all left the theater after seeing the first Star Wars film, and we were all just like, "Oh, do you think Darth Vader lived? What's going to happen? Is he going to be going after Luke? I mean, what happened to the Empire?" I mean, we were asking all these really geeky in the universe kind of questions, and now I'm seeing that happen again. We didn't get that with the prequel trilogy.
Yeah.
That didn't exist, but we're getting it now. Everybody's asking all sorts of questions like, okay, so who's Rey's parents? Did Han Solo... Okay, here he is, people. Did Han Solo really die? What are the Knights of Ren? Who the heck is Snoke? I mean, the fact that people are asking these questions says to me that the writing and the direction of this movie was 100% spot on.
Yeah, exactly.
Completely. It's like they introduced a lot of new elements and we totally buy them. They're totally buyable. It's like, okay, I'm completely buying these new people and what they're doing, and it's like, okay, move forward. Yay.
Yeah, it's well crafted and they make it believable, and you care about the characters. And we were talking about that with some other filmmakers recently. Is sometimes filmmaking is kind of disingenuous, and you go see a film and you don't care about the characters, and so it's just a film. It's just on the screen, but the ones that really get you are the ones that you care about the characters, and even in writing too. And to just kind of give you a little plug, I care about the characters that you've written about and that in the Corvallis Chronicles. So it's a testament to the writing, whether it's yours or somebody else's, that we go to a film or read a book and care about the characters.
Well, it's not just a testament to the writing. I mean, that is clearly part of it, but it's also a testament to your cast.
Exactly.
Because they have to bring those characters to life.
Yeah.
I mean, as you pointed out, the prequel trilogy had some very strong actors, yet I couldn't get behind any one of them. Because despite the fact that they're strong in their craft, there was nothing there that made me say, I like this person.
Right.
I mean, I couldn't give a hoot that Anakin was going to fall to the dark side. I didn't care all that much that Padme was going to die. I mean, despite the fact that it's Natalie Portman, and I happen to like Natalie Portman as an actress. She's a great actress.
I
but
know.
there was nothing in her role in the prequel trilogy that made me want to emotionally invest. Unlike this, I found the characters to be highly compelling. In fact, I actually found myself really happy when our rebel pilot Poe turns out he's still alive.
Yeah.
Exactly.
He's on the screen for what, just a couple of minutes,
And then all of a sudden he's
and then
not.
he's gone.
And it's like, oh, I kind of liked him.
And I'm thinking, okay, he's dead. All right, move on. And then he shows up. I'm like, all right, I kind of like this guy. There's something kind of fun about him. And that's partly due to, I think, his very good acting. But I would apply that to any of our main cast. I thought they all did a magnificent job, including the actor who played Kylo Ren. And playing evil like that is not always the easiest thing to do.
No. And when he took off his mask and I saw who it was, I got chills because I love him. He is amazing. Have you guys ever watched the show on HBO, Girls?
No, never saw it.
That's where he comes from. I believe that's what his start. And he plays a very dark, kind of troubled character on there who at first you hate him and then you love him. And when I saw it was him, that was literally my favorite part of this whole movie is when he took that mask off, and I was like, yes, it's Adam. And I think he was wonderful in that role. I can't wait to see him in the next movie.
Yes, that's something that's very interesting is Kylo Ren or Ben Solo. One of the trickiest things, I think, is actually creating a character that is conflicted and to make the audience believe it.
Yeah.
I really could, I'm not going to say identify, but I could empathize with the fact that he was conflicted. I could believe it. It came across as genuine, which made him an interesting character. And then he starts to become one of these characters that you almost love to hate.
Yeah.
And if you're going to try to come up with a successor to Darth Vader, I think they did a really good job because in the prequel trilogy, we had Darth Sidious, all three movies. We had Darth Maul, who was probably of all the apprentices maybe the most interesting, and he had the least amount to say.
Totally, I completely agree.
And Darth Tyrannus, as much as I love Christopher Lee, there was nothing in it was a little too two-dimensional for me. But Kylo Ren, the fact that we know a little bit of his backstory, but actually sensing the conflict in him.
Yeah.
Especially when he takes the mask off.
Yeah. He plays those roles well because it's not the same at all as the role he plays in Girls, but in Girls he does play someone who is conflicted at times. He can be simultaneously just enraged, and then he can be tender. He's this wonderful character, and so I thought he's a great choice for this, and I bought it. I really thought he was great, and so and the previous bad guys from the prequels, I did like Darth Maul, but I was just talking with somebody else saying he was the most interesting character in the prequels, but yeah, the rest of them, I don't even remember Christopher Lee being in the movie. That's how much he did stick with me. Isn't that sad?
Oh, I know. Even though he did a really nice lightsaber fight with Yoda towards the end of Attack of the Clones.
Oh, was that him? Okay, But yeah, okay.
Let's go back to some of our cast in this film. Of course, we've got some of our familiars back. We see C-3PO, and I'm assuming that's Anthony Daniels inside the costume. We do get a little bit of Peter Mayhew with the more stationary Chewbacca. We get like the briefest of looks at Mark Hamill.
Right.
which made me laugh because
Yeah.
I remember it was so funny when the final credits were rolling. I turned to Keith and I said, "Well, now we know why JJ did not allow for Mark Hamill to show up in any of the trailers.
Because if you see it in the trailers, you've
seen it
seen
in
the whole
movie.
film.
That's right. You've seen it in the movie.
Yep. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I thought that was an interesting ending, and you're speculating on. Well, anyway, I don't want to spoil that. You guys can bring that up, but on whether he's, related to somebody else.
Yeah.
Well-
There's a lot of theories. I saw an article that said, well, it's going back and forth. Is it Han and Leia's? Is Rey Han and Leia's, or is it Luke's? And then it was back and forth. They made a good point in that article, but it'll probably be something completely different.
Interesting.
But it does actually kind of bake some. I mean, that was one of
It's
the biggest
the-
questions.
It's the third child of Darth Vader.
But that is one of the biggest mysteries, right up to right next to what are the Knights of Ren / who is General Snoke / what does is Snoke Sith, any of that. The other big thing is, who the heck is Rey? What is her lineage?
Exactly.
Because we see that she's really gifted with mechanical devices.
Right.
She was able to pilot the Millennium Falcon quite well.
Yep.
In addition to being able to mechanically, patch it up here and there, understand how it works. In addition to being clearly force sensitive, extremely force sensitive. Oh my God, force sensitive.
Yep.
So there's a lot. Yeah.
Jedi progeny somewhere.
Yeah. Obviously, she's got to be a descendant of Vader in some capacity or another. But yeah, that's the big question. I mean, who?
Maybe she's a descendant of Palpatine.
Oh, stop.
And she's Skywalker's kid.
Yeah,
That's
she is a Skywalker child, but in what capacity is really the big question. Is she Luke's, or is she she the sister to Ben? I mean, one of the popular theories is that they took what was in the expanded universe in the books. Han and Leia had twins, Jaina and Jason. And Jason became, he fell to the dark side. I don't know if he becomes Sith, but he definitely becomes a dark Jedi. And Jaina, his twin sister, stays on the side of light. So people are kind of wondering, is this what's happening here? Are we seeing that? And that's one of the first thoughts that ran through my head, because I kept asking myself, when the heck did Luke have time to have a kid?
Yeah, that's a good point, and that was actually my first thought, is that she was the sister, but then I thought, well, then why is nobody talking about her, wondering where she is?
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started forming other theories, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the big problem. How is it that if she is the sister to Ben, how is it that nobody knows?
Well, this guy talked about that and said that it was probably once Ben was lost to the dark side, and that broke up Han and Leia, and Han left, but she was pregnant at the time, and so Leia never told Han that she was pregnant and had another child, and then abandoned her on wherever, but who knows?
I'm not going to buy that theory because of the age.
Yeah.
She's too close in age to Ben. If that were the case, because Ben was already, I'm not sure how old he was supposed to be, but clearly, I mean, he must have been at least a teenager at the time that he fell to the dark side. So that would have put him at least like maybe 13 or so years older than Rey. So I don't think that's the case, because they look pretty close to age in the movie.
Yeah.
Right.
You never know.
We'll just have to wait and see. And then as
they'll craft a good story.
Well, that's all that matters. It's got to be a really good story.
And that's the whole point.
And we need to know, like, what happened. She was obviously waiting for somebody to return. She had foster parents. Like, who are these people she wanted to return to her home planet? And
Exactly.
And then they told her, well, they're not coming back, so forget about it. So it's like, what's her story? How did she wind up there? Yeah, it'll be interesting to find that out.
Yeah.
So let's look at some of the other aspects of this film. One of the things that immediately leapt out to me was the music. In fact, I think, especially with the original trilogy, John Williams really helped to bring back the idea of the symphonic score in big classical ways with leitmotifs and things like that. And I also remember that when those soundtracks came out, I mean, you could actually leave the theater after you see the movie. You could leave a theater and you could be humming one of the themes.
Right.
Because they were so memorable. Soundtracks were just flying off the shelf. We saw alternate versions of the popular soundtracks being made. That's how popular these original soundtracks were. So now John Williams, thankfully he was able to come back at the age of 84 and craft a new score for this movie. Does it resonate?
I think for me, this is just me. I didn't notice it that much, and it isn't because it wasn't good, but because I don't usually notice things like that the first time through. I'm waiting. The only one that I really paid a lot of attention to is when they were in the bar filled with all the aliens. That music, I thought, okay, this is different than the other one. And, I paid a lot of attention to that one. The rest of it I didn't even notice, and but I will on future ones. So, but the thing about it is, if you don't notice something, that means it's oftentimes good when it comes to movie making. Usually it sticks out when it's like wrong somehow. So I think he did a really good job making it seamless with all the other scores he's done. That's my general take on the music.
Well, I think because we have become accustomed to the John Williams score in being in tune with what's happening on the screen, that it becomes unnoticeable. You just kind of expect it.
Yeah,
I
totally.
think that's probably some of it anyway.
Yeah. And I think, and that's good. I think a score shouldn't be something that interferes with your with your experience of the movie. It should go with it. And I think that it did. Like I said, the only time I even thought about the score was at the bar, because of course I want to know what kind of music they're going to play after that funky music they played in the first one.
Right. I noticed a couple of different themes that were coming back that they played at certain moments. He inserted like the Han and Leia's theme.
Oh, yes.
In a couple of different places that were interesting, and some of the musical cues from the original.
You're right. Absolutely right. Yes.
So it helped to link what came before with what we're seeing now.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing you take for granted, and again, unless it's wrong, that, good, when they make a musical score, they often have themes for certain characters or certain couples or certain people. There's a Darth Vader theme, and you become accustomed to that music, and you only notice it when it's not right. And so I can't wait to go back and listen to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, actually, I'm glad you reminded me of that, because I remember when we were in the theater and I heard those cues, I thought, well, that's a really nice touch.
Yeah.
And it was really weird, because despite the fact that I was able to acknowledge the fact that these musical cues were there, I found that at no time it ever took me out of the film.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
It allowed me to stay in. So that
Are
was.
you someone who really just loves music and notices scores a lot anyway?
Yeah, we both, and he listens to it a lot, and he's a musician, so.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Makes a difference, yeah. And then I happen to love music, and I had the score, or not the score, but
But you had the soundtrack.
The soundtrack,
especially to
to
the first Star Wars film,
right.
And yeah, you played, like all of us. I think we just wore the album out.
Exactly.
Yeah, that the Darth Vader theme, or the Imperial March, is quite literally my favorite piece of classical music. I think I love it that much. My hair stands on end on my arms when I listen to it.
I remember when I got the soundtrack to Star Wars, and I would just play it. Literally, I would just put it on the turntable and just on repeat, just play over and over and over and over and over again, and I just lay back in my bed, playing out all the scenes in my mind as I was listening to the music. And I remember my mother was absolutely thrilled, because she says, "Oh, my boy likes classical music now."
And it is, and it's wonderful music. I love
Yeah.
it.
It is.
And
It's really gorgeous.
Written by Johnny Williams.
Johnny Williams, yes, of Lost in Space fame. Okay, so I want to touch on probably one of the most shocking, controversial moments in the entire movie. I don't have to spell it out any further. Wow, what did we think when that happened, when Han Solo took a lightsaber to the gut?
Yeah, I saw that coming because when father and son on the bridge, that never has gone well in the past.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
And when he, when Ren folded that quickly, I was like, he's gonna, and he had that thing aimed at him, like he's gonna shoot it right through him, and he's gonna go right off the edge. And I think it's kind of what had to happen to move the story forward. But I didn't know what to think of it because I just didn't feel convinced that he would be dead.
I was the same way on that.
Yeah. I didn't feel like, oh, he's gone. Like, I don't know why. I feel like we don't know if he's dead. This is a Star Wars universe. He could be alive, hanging from somewhere down in that hole or whatever.
Exactly,
Who knows? But even though he could be, and we had to say goodbye to him. But it is sad though if he is gone because obviously he's a favorite of favorites, and everybody loves Han Solo.
Well, there's been all sorts of discussion and old stories have been recirculating about how Harrison Ford actually wanted to see Han Solo get killed, I believe, in The Empire Strikes Back. He was pushing for Han's death back then. And I do know that Harrison, oh gosh, when was this? Oh, this was maybe about 5 or 6 years ago when no, actually, this is before they started working on the 4th Indiana Jones film. How Harrison was asked about what he thought, these two iconic characters of his, Indiana Jones and Han Solo. And he went on to say that he thought Indiana Jones was just one of the greatest characters that he's ever played. There's a lot of depth to him. He's got these strong emotional arcs. And then you ask him, well, what do you think about Han Solo? And he says, he's a tree.
Huh.
He's got nothing. He hated playing Han Solo.
I've heard that he was kind of over the whole thing.
Never wanted to play Han Solo again, which was why it was so surprising when he actually agreed to play the part in this movie. But then during all the press, all the junkets leading up to the release of the film, all he would say is that he thought Han had the greatest emotional arc that he had ever seen with the character. And I'm thinking, and everybody said that, Han was just like happy as a clam during the entire time they were filming. And anytime he was being interviewed on a TV show, I mean, despite the fact that Han or Harrison Ford always likes to come off as the grumpy actor, everybody said that in reality he was actually very happy. And I'm kind of wondering, well, is he really happy because he finally got that character killed?
Yeah. Or maybe, after nearly 40 years, he's finally come around and realized that he was part of a quality thing after all.
Yeah.
Well, I would like that one.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope that's the case. You never know. We don't get to see how these people feel about being in these movies and being part of these franchises and playing Batman or playing Superman or whatever.
No.
For all they know, it's like, God, I hate this character. I just want it to end.
And they can't say anything while the cycle of movies are being made. They have to, because it's very unprofessional.
Yeah.
It paints a black eye on the film. And it makes the actor look actually kind of cheesy, too. I mean, it's kind of safe if you're doing it when you're working on a bunch of other stuff and you're referring to roles from the past. Then sure, you can say whatever the heck you want. But if you're in the middle of something, in the middle of making these movies, you can't actually come out and say, I never want to play that character again because you might lose a lot of jobs in Hollywood if that were the case.
Yeah.
But one thing that is interesting is I just read a story. In fact, actually, we posted this story on our website. By the time this episode comes out, it was released about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And it talks about the people that are coming back for this episode 8.
I saw that, and I thought I read that everybody's coming back.
Everybody's coming back.
Does it include Han Solo? Yeah.
Well, Harrison Ford, and I had read this actually, like a month or even 2 months before Force Awakens came out, and Harrison was on the list to come back to for Episode 8, along with Carrie Fisher. The only name that was not being mentioned was Mark Hamill.
Huh.
And I think the only reason they held off on that is because it was a great way to perpetuate the discussion about, is Luke good? Is Luke bad? Does Luke come back, like maybe halfway into the film? Does Luke die? I mean, I heard multitudes of theories about what happens to Luke Skywalker in this film because J.J. was being obviously so very coy about it. And then to not announce that Mark Hamill was coming back for Episode 8, which turns out he is, it created a lot of buzz. And yet at the same time, I noticed that Harrison was signed for Episode 8. And this latest story where there was a statement from Kathleen Kennedy of Lucasfilm, and she said, oh, yes, all of our people are coming back. And Harrison was mentioned.
Okay, yeah. And I just had a flashback. I'm sure you've seen the Lord of the Rings trilogies. Remember when Gandalf fell down the hole?
Oh, yeah.
He came back, too, in a different way. But
well, it's funny you mention that because I just watched Lord of the Rings, and a classic case is actually Boromir. Because if you get the special edition, the extended edition, Boromir is in flashbacks.
Yeah.
After he dies in Fellowship of the Ring, he appears in flashbacks in the Two Towers and in The Return of the King. He's in flashbacks. So, yeah, they were able to bring Sean Bean back for that.
Yeah, and that could be all that's going to happen with this one. That's completely reasonable, especially in this series. I mean, the same thing happened with who is his mentor, Obi-Wan.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And especially since Ben is conflicted on, his father and has daddy issues, shall we say. So that could be really good for flashback material.
Yeah, exactly. Especially when we see how Ben's fall from the light side, how that affected Leia and Han.
Yeah.
We might get some kind of flashback on that. And with CGI being what it is and how they're able to computer face brush people or computer airbrush. I mean, we saw how they did that for Jeff Bridges in Tron Legacy. So it's very possible that they might be able to get present-day Harrison and then just kind of smooth out the wrinkles.
Yeah.
And come off with a younger-looking Han Solo.
Yeah, especially since Snoke says it's time to finish his training.
Time to complete his training. Oh!
So that could be, a perfect time for flashback Harrison Ford or flashback Han to come in and deal with those issues.
And we're going to need flashbacks because there's a lot that was talked about that we're going to need to see a little bit of. I mean, if all this stuff went wrong with Ren during his training, and that's what made Luke go into exile, we need to know something about that.
Exactly.
People are going to want to see his breakdown.
Not unless they give us a new prequel trilogy. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sending out ideas. Don't do that. Give us flashback sequences. We don't need another trilogy that's all set in the past. We're done with that. But you're right. It would be nice to kind of get a sense of how Ben fell, how this affected Han and Leia, to actually witness how it affected Luke and where he actually chose to go. Did he really go to the first Jedi Temple, which I kind of get the feeling that maybe he did. And also to answer one of the other big questions is, who in the blazes is Snoke?
Yeah. Who the heck is that?
Who's that guy?
I mean, what's his story? Is he Sith? That was kind of the big question that I had, especially since we know that JJ has said that Kylo Ren is not Sith.
Okay.
He's not a Sith Lord. And JJ was very explicit about that. He said that in numerous interviews that Kylo Ren was just simply a dark Jedi or a Jedi that fell to the dark side, but was not a Sith Lord. And I like the fact that he was making that differentiation right there. They're trying to simply say, there's a difference between being a dark Jedi and being a Sith Lord. I like the fact that he did that, because then anybody can become a Sith Lord, and then it just becomes silly. But for the idea of having this really creepy alien guy running the show.
Yeah, where did he come from?
Yeah, I really want to get a sense on who this guy is, because
it's Andy Serkis. That's who it is.
Well, we know that.
Oh, you mean who he is in the film, not who plays him.
Well, he sort of looks like Gollum.
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
He looks like a character from a fantasy movie a little bit. Yeah, I didn't realize that was Andy Serkis.
I didn't either, actually, until I was reading IMDb, because I always like to check to see if there's any kind of trivia or if I've got questions about certain cast members, and I'm looking, oh my word, Andy Serkis played Snoke. Well, of course he did. I mean, he's like your go-to CGI actor.
Right.
Anytime you need to have a CGI performance, you're going to go to Andy Serkis, because let's just face it, the guy's good.
He's really good. I loved him in Planet of the Apes. I couldn't keep my eyes off that character. I thought he was that good.
Oh, he was amazing. Also as King Kong.
Oh, was he King Kong?
He was King Kong.
Oh, I didn't know that. I saw that so long ago. Huh.
Yeah. Well, of course, Peter Jackson recruited him for that. But yeah, Andy Serkis is a magnificent physical actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's become his specialty too. He's actually mentoring other people to do that, and he directs scenes. He's an AD.
He's a second unit director.
Yeah, for CGI
nice.
scenes.
Yeah, he helped out a lot during The Hobbit, but yeah, especially with I think he did some of that for the Adventures of Tintin.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he played was it Haddock? I think it was the captain.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, he helps out in those areas, but he's really gifted, and I could have been happier to have someone like him play Snoke, because having an all CGI character. I mean, we've had way too many all CGI characters in the prequel trilogy, and in my mind, that was one of the damaging aspects to to those series of films.
True. That's true.
After all, they started to not look quite so real. But having someone with the quality of Andy Serkis's acting, it made for Snoke to come off as a rather threatening-looking kind of beastie. So let's talk about the visuals. One of the things that J.J. Abrams really wanted to come back to was practical effects.
Okay.
He wanted to greatly minimize CGI, and there was some CGI because there were a few scenes there, here and there, where you couldn't get away from it. You had to use it. But whenever possible, he had actors that were in costume, or he actually had some kind of legitimate prop that was like hanging on a crane or anything. How are the visuals in this film compared to what we saw in the prequel trilogy, or the age of CGI?
Yeah, I think I'm not a fan of lots of CGI. I find it boring, and I always reference one of the best sci-fi movies of all time, 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is visually just jaw-dropping.
Yes.
And no CGI back then, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Old school. I love old school if it can be done. And I thought in the prequels there was just too much CGI, and it took away. It just felt like a cartoon a little, Whereas in this one, I thought I particularly loved the space shots, the classic shots of the big giant ship moving in space past something else, or I loved that, because you know what I'm talking about. One of the opening shots was like that. After the words past one of the giant ships passes something in space. I can't remember. It was a great old school shot that I thought was awesome.
That was the first homage to the original film.
Well, for what it's worth,
to a certain extent.
Well, all three of the original trilogies all dealt with an Imperial cruiser crossing over the field of the camera.
Yeah, I love that. I thought it was great, and he did it at least twice in this one, and I thought it was cool. And I thought the visuals were good. I think they toned down. I mean, I'll have to watch it again to look at what specifically was CGI, but it never came into my mind like, wow, that's CGI. And if that's how I felt, that's good.
And actually, there was one scene that takes place on Jakku where TIE fighters are attacking, and I remember it was actually quite startling to me because it looked real.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked really real, as opposed to what we saw in the prequels, where it was just a very pretty effect. I remember in Attack of the Clones when they're doing a big sky chase over Coruscant,
Yeah.
and I thought,
I remember that.
yeah, okay, that's pretty, sure. But this was almost jarring in a really good way.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
very
it
impressed.
felt like old school effects, and I don't know how much of it was or wasn't. I'm gonna have to definitely watch it again, but I liked it. It just felt clean.
So now I kind of want to get onto the cast. We've already talked a little bit about Harrison Ford. I mean, Harrison, let's just be honest. The man, I think he's easily one of the most underrated actors in the industry.
Interesting. Yeah, he's in some of my favorite movies, so yeah, I always think highly of him. And I just assumed everyone else did too, but maybe not, huh?
Yeah. So what did you think of Carrie Fisher's performance?
Yeah, she I liked it. She whereas Harrison Ford felt like he was just the same except older. She had a different energy about her.
Yep.
And I know she's had a very different life and kind of a challenging one. I don't know all the details, but she definitely had a more mature energy. Even though I think I've always felt she had an old soul anyway, even when she was very young. But in this, her soul felt even older. There was a certain kind of maturity and wisdom about her in this that I thought was interesting, and I liked her.
Yeah.
I thought she fit the role well, but she did seem different than younger Leia, whereas Han Solo did not seem different to me.
Well, and he kind of references that. He says he went back to what he's used to, you know, in the film, but she progressed on and became, this freedom fighter and et cetera, yada, yada, yada.
Well, I think how he described it is he went back to what he's used to doing, and that's running away, and she went back to what she's doing, and that's running the show.
Exactly.
Yeah, she's a boss, and I think in this case she was just a more mature, wiser boss that's been through more in life, and I liked it. I thought she fit that role really well.
Yeah, and especially if you've seen any of her live interviews that she's done,
word.
she is a mess. But
she's a total loose cannon
in a good way. But she knows how to turn it on and give a quality performance. So it was really good.
I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if people are going to look at her acting in this, and maybe she might even start seeing a few scripts start landing her way, because I dare say a lot of studios were afraid to hire her.
Yeah.
Maybe because she was, oh man, I hate to use this word, but it's kind of true. She's damaged.
Yeah.
Because she's had such a hard life.
Yeah.
And yeah, I saw her Keith and I both saw her on Craig Ferguson just shortly before they were to start filming Force Awakens, and she really was, she was a train wreck, to be honest. And I was very nervous about how she was going to come off in this film, and I was so surprised because she was able to give us a Leia that it had a lot of, oh man, I don't know how to describe it.
It was
very
nuanced, I thought.
Pardon?
I thought it was nuanced.
That's it. That's
Exactly.
absolutely it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very nuanced.
I liked it. I thought it really worked. She pulled it out from somewhere.
Yep. So what did you think of Mark Hamill's performance? that
Yeah, that gaze he gives as he stares at the lightsaber. Man, that's Oscar-winning acting.
Yeah, I'm a smart aleck. What can I say? Anybody else that stuck out for you as
I think it'd be the main character is Rey, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I'm still not good on the names yet. I just know the faces, but I liked her a lot. And this is an interesting thing because as somebody who writes female protagonists and who loves female protagonists, there's so much damn debate about what what a good female protagonist is and what a quote unquote strong female is. And like there's so much strong opinion about what they should be and what they shouldn't be, and women don't act like that, and that's not a woman, and blah blah blah. And it pisses me off actually. And but I like seeing women in lead roles, and I felt that she was a quote unquote strong female, but I thought she really pulled it off. You didn't feel like she was, somebody they pulled off of the, a makeup ad and stuck in a movie because she's hot and can hold a gun. You know what I mean? She was very believable. There was something. I compared her to somebody. I thought she was like an athletic Keira Knightley, and I happen to really like Keira Knightley.
Oh, I do too. I do too. I think she's a great actress.
I love her, and she was her, but she was more athletic and more gritty, and I thought she fit that role. It was like that was her. I thought she did the role awesome. I think it's going to be very well received, and I found her very, very believable, including all her understanding of engines. I bought it. I really did. I'm like, yeah, she would know that.
I'm wondering if maybe JJ gave her more of her background, in confidence. Because JJ does know her origin. He had to, so that he could direct her correctly.
Yeah.
Because we have a very awkward situation here where she's in the middle. We're being dropped right into the middle of her emotional arc.
Yeah, that's
not
true.
The beginning of it. Because it's unlike Luke. Luke is a different story. If you want to compare him, compare Rey to Luke, Luke's emotional arc actually begins when R2 and 3PO show up.
Yeah.
Because he has no memory of his parents. Naturally, if he was just a baby, days old, then naturally he wouldn't have any memory of his time out, with Padme or anything like that. He wouldn't have any knowledge of that. All he would know is his time growing up with Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru on Tatooine. But Rey is different. So, because we know that she has some kind of memory of being abandoned on Jakku, and some kind of understanding that her parents or her loved ones, I believe I think she referred to them as her family, were eventually going to come to rescue her.
Yeah, she really wanted to go back. Enough to pull her away from something I think she wanted to be a part of. She's like, no, I got to go back. And finally they're like, no, there's no point in you going back. But that's a pretty strong bond for her to want to go back. So yeah, there must be family of some sort. And yeah, we need to know what her beginnings are.
Yeah, so her emotional arc is very early on. So again, we have this really weird situation. Now, here's another character, Finn. In the case of Finn, his emotional arc starts right at the moment he takes his helmet off.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
It starts on Jakku.
Well, yeah, on Jakku. Well, it starts when he puts his gun down.
Yep.
And he chooses not to fire.
Yeah.
When he hesitates. That's when his emotional journey begins. So the movie is now really, it's not out of sync, but we've got two different things going on here. We've got one of our main protagonists, his emotional arc is starting right almost at the moment we first meet him. We've got Rey. We're in the first time we see her, we're in the middle of her emotional arc. And then, of course, don't even talk about Ben Solo. God only knows what his emotional arc is going to be like. I'm sure, it must have started way, way, way long ago.
Yeah.
So I would think, especially in the case of Rey, very funny. In the case of Rey, I've got to believe that she must have some understanding about what her character's past is.
Yeah.
So that she could play the part right, because you described her as being like a gritty Keira Knightley, but to have that grittiness, she's got to understand where she came from, what brought her to this point. Yeah. I would think.
Yeah, agreed. I find her to be very compelling. The reviews I've read seem to speak very highly of her, and and that's saying a lot in Star Wars. I mean, let's face it, this isn't a franchise known for its tremendous acting, and I think that this movie, from an acting perspective, is the best of the lot so far.
Yeah.
So, just briefly, what do you think of Finn?
I think he's an important character because it's interesting to have a stormtrooper turncoat.
Exactly.
Have you noticed how popular stormtroopers are now? Like when we go to the cons?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The 501st Legion,
Yeah, the stormtroopers and Vader have taken over.
Yeah, we saw a bunch at FanFest just last month.
Yeah, they have these amazing T-shirts that are all different stormtrooper facial expressions, blah blah blah. They're hilarious, and I think having him be a turncoat stormtrooper was really important. I think it was a great move on their part, and he's funny because he's got a little bit of he's got that campy humor that I think is important to the franchise, and he pulled it off really well.
Yeah, and I thought there was a lot of bold casting in this film for and not trying to be racially biased or anything, but to give a black man as a stormtrooper, a female stormtrooper, a female lead in the film. I think it's wonderful. I think
really
it's
going
great.
For diversity.
Yeah, it's just the diversity in this film is just it's great. It's into the new era, shall we say.
It is. I think that's been mentioned a few times, and I remember that. Yeah, that's what I noticed the most is a black man in a lead role in a stormtrooper role in Star Wars. I was like, that was the most noticeable to me, and then later it occurred to me, oh yeah, I guess a female lead too. Although that's normal to me,
right.
And what I write. But then also, the pilot, his name escapes me. He's Latino, and
Poe.
Right.
Yeah, and so and this has gotten people have been talking about it, and it's a good thing. It also shows that this is a more modern Star Wars.
Exactly, it's into the new century, shall we say?
Yeah, definitely, it's cool.
So, for a final question, what do we hope for in terms of Episode 8?
We hope for some flashbacks about what is going on, what happened in the past that turned Ren bad. How did it break down? Why did Luke feel responsible? And what's Rey's story? That's what I want to see. And then, of course, we want to move forward. And we want to move forward and have the story take on its own life, so they probably don't have to reference the old stuff quite as much, although some references are always important and good.
Of course.
That's off the top of my head what I want to see. How about you guys?
You go ahead.
I think I want to see what the story of behind Ben or Kylo Ren's evolution, shall we say, and what is Rey's story, and who is she really? I guess that's the question, and why did Luke disappear? What's the real reason that Luke disappeared?
Yeah, why did he feel responsible for what happened?
Exactly.
Yeah. I would like to see some background on Rey, although it's possible we may not get that till Episode 9.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
They may hold off on that. Which would track with how long it took for us to learn about Luke and Leia and their relationship.
Right.
So maybe Episode 9 before we learn anything about her family history. I desperately want to know more about Snoke.
Okay.
Because I'm one of these guys who likes to understand who the enemy is. Because the better you understand your enemy, the better you have a chance at defeating them.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, because we're not going to be as interested in the story if we don't have a formidable enemy. And he can't be, just a generally terrible guy. He has to have some kind of issue too. Like what's going on with him? Why is he doing what he's doing? Where does he come from? And the more they develop him, the more invested we are in the story.
Yeah.
Again, look at how Vader has become so popular over the years.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
become a cult figure, even more than the good guys to some extent, because he had such an important role, that ended up evolving. And so I think if they do the same thing with this dude, I think it'll really help the film.
And the one last thing I would love to see is, I do want to see a little bit more Luke.
Me too.
I'm really curious. Luke has always been one of my favorite characters. I'm just one of these weird guys that really likes your true blue, patriotic hero kind of guy.
Me too.
And yeah, I mean, not to say that I don't like Han. I think Han's amazing, but rogues after a while kind of bore me.
Me too. I've always been a Luke camp guy, not Han.
I'm glad. Nice to talk to you about that. I'm so glad to know I'm not alone. So yeah, I'd like to see a little bit more Luke to find out, get a good sense of what kind of a Jedi he has become, but not at the expense of Rey. Because clearly this set of movies is really about Rey and Finn.
Yeah, and we need to focus on them. And I have wondered if they're going to wind up being a couple. There certainly seems to be some attachment between them. But even besides that, yeah, I would like to. I personally was almost slightly disappointed when you saw Luke's face, but he didn't say anything. I wanted at least something from him. And it's like, oh God, because I want to know. This originally was his story.
Yeah, exactly.
He's gotten pushed to the background.
Well, by not having any words, they could pay him less.
Exactly.
yeah, or they can keep the mystery. But he better have some words in the next one.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. Well, I think that was some really good deep geeking that we just got there. So before we wrap things up, Miss Christy
tell us
Hartman,
where you are. Tell us what you're doing right now and where you are in your journey at this point.
Well, you guys know I write sci-fi, and I just finished the third book in my Core Valley Chronicles.
Yay!
Yeah, and so I'm very excited about that. But also, there's a little bit of, oh my God, it's over. But I feel extremely good about this last book, and so for anyone who likes sci-fi that's got a little adventure, a little, some real science in it. It's a fun trilogy.
Yeah, it is. I enjoyed the first two books. I'm looking forward to the third one and see how it all turns out.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear you guys' opinion, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll be talking about it, and I'm sure that after we get a good chance to read the third book, we will then have you back on the show so we can talk about it.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be awesome. I would love that.
Just so everybody knows what that's all about, give us a rundown and where that can be found and where you can be found.
Yeah, so you can find me at my website and blog are at 5280press.com. And you can find the Core Valley Chronicles books. The first one's called The Refugee on all the major sites, Amazon, iTunes. It's in print version as well. And on Kobo as well. So, yeah, feel free to give me a shout or come visit the blog and say hello.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much, Christy, for joining us. That was Christy Hartman, or Dr. Christine Hartman, correct? And you are a scientist, a true scientist, so that's why you put real science into your writing as C.A. Hartman and the Core Valley Chronicles. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks. I love deep geeking, and this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Well, the next time a really big movie comes out that's deserving of deep geeking, we'll be sure to have you back on.
Would love it.
You don't need to hear their identification. They're the Two Gay Geeks. They can go about their business. Move along.
And yes, that is the birthday music. We have few selected birthdays for January 4th through January the 10th. January 4th, Sterling Holloway, the original Winnie the Pooh, the original voice of Winnie the Pooh. Dot Jones on January 4th. She was the coach in
Glee.
In Glee, yes. And Grace Bumbry, who was a noted opera singer. January 5th, Bradley Cooper, Hayao Miyazaki, George Reeves. You know who George Reeves is?
Superman.
Yes, the original. Well, in the Adventures of Superman.
Well,
the original Adventures of Superman.
He was not the original. The original is Kirk Allen, but yes, George Reeves really made a name for himself playing the part.
Yes. Also on January 4th, Oscar Isaac. January 6th, Rowan Atkinson.
Mr. Bean.
Oh, I thought that was the Archbishop of Canterbury. No. Rowan Atkinson. Mr. Bean, that's right. What are you talking about? That was a joke.
Okay.
January 7th, Nicolas Cage, Jeremy Renner, and Butterfly McQueen. Butterfly McQueen, most famously known for Prissy
in Gone with the Wind.
Gone with the Wind, yes. January 8th, Stephen Hawking, William Hartnell, and Shirley Bassey.
Stephen Hawking and William Hartnell shared a birthday. How
Yeah,
about that?
and fascinating, huh? January 9th, Gypsy Rose Lee and Bob Denver.
I almost met him. Almost met him
him
when I was living in Virginia.
Yeah.
Almost
wow.
met the man.
Interesting. Also, then January the 10th, Pat Benatar and Roy E. Disney. And that's it for the birthdays this time around. So thank you for listening for Do the Birthdays.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Forget about whether Han shot first. He did. Is it true that Han Solo teamed up with a 6-foot green rabbit? Did Darth Vader profess a devotion to the immortal gods of the Sith? And did Leia's unhealthy attraction to her brother grow for years? Ew. Hi, I'm voice actor Michael Corley, and I want to answer these questions and more on the VoxBox Star Wars comic book podcast. Each VoxBox episode covers classic Star Wars comics, starting with the original Marvel series in 1977 all the way to the present day. So tune in, have some fun, and may the Force be with you at VoxBoxPodcast.com.
Go give a listen to our friends over at VoxBox Star Wars Podcast. And now we have epic feedback this week.
Okay, people, get comfortable. We've got some amazing, amazing, amazing feedback from all of our friends and fans out there. Starting with regarding a story that we ran last week about how Dimension Films was not going to be doing any more Halloween films.
No more Halloween.
No more Halloween. And we got a response from Crazy Joe, and he simply writes this. Drive Angry was so good. You have to read the story, but in a nutshell, Dimension was looking at a film writing, directing duo who had done a movie called Drive Angry. Apparently, it bombed in the box office, and Dimension decided they didn't want to go with them. Then they stopped being able to make the movies. And anyway, Crazy Joe seemed to like Drive Angry, and all I know is that it stars Nicolas Cage.
Ah,
So take that for what you will.
okay.
And then last week, we also ran a story which is really gaining the most bizarre traction. The link for this story will be in our show notes. And that is how Space 1999 is to be reimagined, or rebooted, really, and called Space 2099. So, and again, that link will be in the show notes. I suggest you read it based on these comments. First, from Dallas Weber, that is Brian's father. He writes, I'm leaning towards optimism. For one thing, production values overall have gotten so much better than in the 70s. Secondly, especially in the first season, some decent sci-fi ideas came up. If it were done with the sensibilities of, say, a Firefly or a Doctor Who, it could be quite entertaining.
Yeah, interesting.
It could be. And then good friend Scott Linder simply writes, not sure how to feel about this Space 1999. It's one of my favorite series from back then. If it does get redone, then I hope they do it justice. Now, my Fusion Patrol co-host, Eugene Glover, simply wrote this. Isn't this a story from several years ago?
Well, as a matter of
fact, it is. And that's one of the things that I commented about in our article, that this story originally came out in 2012. And now, all of a sudden, that story is breaking all over the place. Not to mention the fact that, but the sites that are reporting the original 2012 story are now getting comments that are as recent as just 2 days ago.
Yeah, that's bizarre.
So it's very weird that this story all of a sudden has garnered this kind of attention now. And that's the only reason why I ran it on our website, because it just came out of nowhere. I mean, a 3-year-old story coming out of nowhere, and there it is. But again, the link is on the show notes. Take a look at it for yourself. And then Michael Fett also writes, because I did make the comment that I was greeting this with a grain of salt and with very, very, very cautious optimism. Michael Fett left a message saying, I agree with you, Ben, and I'm optimistic as well. The one thing is for sure, the 2 shows that have been revamped in the last 10 years of his, meaning Jerry Anderson's, and he was referring to Captain Scarlet and Thunderbirds Argo. Mike says, those have been handled with respect.
Yeah.
Well, he's right. I mean, as far as Thunderbirds go, I've seen that one. I've not seen the Captain Scarlet reboot.
Yeah. Now, didn't you want to throw in a little plug for your...
Oh, for Fusion Patrol?
Yeah, since just yesterday.
Yeah, okay. Well, I was gonna do this later, but I might as well do this.
Do it now.
Look, I might as well do it now.
You can do it later too.
Yeah. Let me see. As of the day that we are recording this, which is January 2nd, on January 1st, yesterday, Eugene and I got together in his home. He only lives a mile away from us, and we did a live commentary to a Space 99 episode. So. Check it out. That'll be coming out this week. It's Fusion Patrol. You can see it on Facebook. I believe there's a Twitter presence, and fusionpatrol.com. So now, we also released a story about Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange.
This has practically
just
broke
blown
the internet.
up, yeah.
It blew up all over the place with pictures and articles. And we've got those on the website. And one of the articles was the pictures released regarding Doctor Strange, and includes Benedict Cumberbatch as the Sorcerer Supreme. And good friend Scott Linder commented, I think they nailed the casting for Doctor Strange. Here's hoping he truly is the Sorcerer Supreme, he says with a smiley face. And then, and this kind of tickled me, we have a follower in Denmark.
Hey, how about that?
Named Jan Andersen. And he simply writes, he most definitely looks the part.
Yay.
And for anybody who wonders, yes, that link is in our show notes. Check it out. You'll get to see what Doctor Strange looks like, as well as the artifacts that he has and the powers that he will currently have in this upcoming movie, as well as develop later on. And then lastly, from Pia de los Muertos,
also known as Pia Thrasher.
Pia Thrasher, but that's how she puts her name on Facebook.
Yes, well, she did that for Day of the Dead. So
yeah. Anyway, she's a good friend of ours from the Horrible Imaginings Film Festival.
Yes, and just a little blurb. At the end of the month of January, she's releasing The Appointment free online.
Oh, and people, get it. It is amazing.
Is great.
It is
a fabulous.
Fantastic. Anyway, Pia writes regarding the Doctor Strange story. Plus, Mads Mikkelsen is in it. Okay, we know where her attention lies. And then, regarding episode 52, once again, we're coming back to the Christmas movies discussion. We got a response from Brian Weber. And he says, did I ever share at Renegade Cuts? And that's a Twitter handler. We will put that on the show notes as well. He says, did I ever share at Renegade Cuts Die Hard as a Christmas movie vid with you guys? If not, here's the link. That link will be on the website as well. Honestly, I think you should be subscribed to Renegade Cut, period, if you aren't already. Great show. Don't worry about archive panic. There are over 100 episodes, but very few of them are more than 20 minutes.
Oh, cool.
Okay, so there's a nice recommendation there.
Have to do that, yeah.
And now regarding episode 53, where we interviewed Patricia Chica.
Yes.
She simply wrote back, can't wait to listen to this when I get home.
She was out of town whenever.
She was out of town. And then she added a secondary comment to that, where she announced to all of her friends and followers, good morning. Learn more about my upcoming projects in this podcast interview with the Two Gay Geeks of TG Squared Studios. I love it when we get pushed like that.
Yay.
That just thrills me to no end. And just little things, a small little comment from Carol Chernich, where she simply writes, you both are so talented.
She's a relative of mine.
I know, but
cousin.
It's nice when we get comments like that. I appreciate that. It means a lot.
That's kind of nice.
And Michelle Miller, classmate of mine from high school, simply writes, you guys are wonderful. And, okay, everybody, hold on. This is
This is a winner.
And I haven't seen this. He wouldn't,
Keith
he
has
wouldn't
not
let me
seen
see
it.
this.
I
so-
didn't want Keith to see this because this comes from our good friends Lookie. And
on YouTube at Lookie Show.
Yeah, at Lookie
and
Show.
then Lookie on
Lookie
YouTube.
on YouTube.
Lookie with
With an exclamation mark.
yep.
A bang. And they're responding to the epic reading that we gave in our last episode. And they simply write, "What a fantastic dramatic reading by Ben. That's so cool. Delighted with your description as the quick story as epic and that live dramatic reading as epic. Bravo, bravo. Could barely stop laughing. Had to rewind just to listen to it again properly. And that was before. When we read this, we heard it in the twins' voices. And then we were just gone. Somebody pause the planet." "So nice to hear Keith laughing in the background," she writes. "We're delighted it was fun and made you both laugh. Just jotted the quote-unquote 5-parter down spontaneously because the card was so cute and it entertained us to imagine what the backstory might be." And then they add parenthetically, "For future visitors, the post is Happy Holidays from the Two Gay Geeks link to photo, and it is included in the page for the TG Geeks Webcast 53. And then they go on. "You're always so cool with us, so figured that some quick thoughts on hear how this photo happened in a kind of a visit from St. Nicholas, or generally called 'Twas the Night Before Christmas, 1823. Theme might just entertain you. Totally didn't expect to hear a dramatic reading of that, but it's excellent. Great work. What's really cute about the podcast is how your two different personalities complement each other and blend so well."
Oh, well, thank you.
That is.
After 19 years.
After 19 years,
you
yeah.
better hope so.
"Keith is calmer, so pleasant, genial, and charming, like a great dinner host. If they only knew." I mean, that's funny.
Yeah, dinner host,
I mean,
yeah.
it's quite accurate in many ways, really.
Yes. I will cook dinner and be the host.
He will be the host, yes. Just don't pay attention to the swearing that's going on in the kitchen as something doesn't
Exactly.
quite go right. Anyway, it's like a great dinner host so that everyone enjoys their visit and can't wait to be invited again because they had a lovely time. Jeannie and Steve Koch.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Jeannie and Steve Koch.
We were just talking to them. We were over there New Year's Eve, and I said, we just have to have you over when we're not doing a podcast, just to have you over just because.
I know. And Jeannie, of course, says, "But I love the podcast." But yes, she's always telling us how Steve's like, "When are they going to have us over again?"
When are we going over to Keith and Ben's for dinner?
Yeah. So anyway, Keith is calmer, because such a great dinner host. Can't wait to be invited again because they had a lovely time. Ben is sparky, passionate about everything, and expresses himself in a fiery way so that there might be some shenanigans that keep guests giggling into their gelato.
Yes.
Boy, did you two nail me. Wow.
They must know us.
I think they know us. Yet, despite the very different styles, the conversations flow perfectly. And we, of course, then said, "Twins, we love you." And they wrote back, "Mutual, we're sure." And now for another dramatic reading. Oh, this time we're going to be reading
I have to read
ourselves. You have to
myself,
read something
huh?
now, honey.
Okay.
And this is basically the dialogue that Keith and I had in our last episode. So I thought it would be kind of fun if we redid it. And again, this is our discussion mentioning what we thought about Lookie.
If you don't know what Lookie at Lookie Show is all about, the Lookie Show on YouTube. They have a big presence on Twitter, but YouTube is where they get to do their show. They put a lot of work into their show. It's two puppets, they're twins, and they review old movies, classic movies.
This show is probably the most original and brilliant type of review shown on YouTube today. It is genius.
You have to go check it out.
I love it.
If you like old movies and campy movie reviews, check it out.
It's a joy, and we will have that link in our show notes. And
Yes.
we will again.
Yes, again.
We will do it again. So, and they simply responded with, "Goodness, kindly just go with us everywhere."
Absolutely.
Actually trying to think how to adequately reply to this stellar bit of loveliness, but just ... completely gobsmacked.
Mm-hmm.
One of the coolest things we've ever heard about the show. Great description, so much warmth and enthusiasm, and Keith is spot on about the campiness. We try to do serious and sober reviews, but something always happens.
Yes, it does.
What a wonderful surprise. It's one of the coolest and nicest mentions ever, and just have no idea what to say. We'll think of something once we pick ourselves up off the floor. Shirley.
Shirley,
Wink.
just answer the question and stop calling
Call
me
me
Shirley.
Yeah.
That's great.
Wasn't that just awesome?
Thank you to the Lookie Show. Yes,
It was.
Great.
I read that and just laughed out loud. It was. I mean, I was flattered to no end, but the humor that is inserted into there just made me giggle.
Yeah, they really the Lookie Show is great. You have to watch their episodes. They're just it starts out very serious, as they said, and something always happens, and it gets a little campy.
I wouldn't say that it derails. I mean, because it doesn't derail by any nature, but it sort of takes a life of its own.
Exactly.
And that's the beauty of it, and that's why it's always so entertaining to not just listen. It needs to be watched.
Yes.
Seriously, it has to be
Absolutely.
watched
You have to
because of the
go
puppets.
to YouTube. Go to YouTube. Yes. So that is our epic responses from
Part
or
two.
feedback. Yes, and if you want to be part of our feedback segment, you can do that.
Feedback-a-palooza almost now.
Feedback-a-palooza, exactly.
I mean, we have to do an episode just of the feedback, the way it's growing.
I'm glad we're getting a lot of feedback. That's great.
And I just want to simply add this, that it's because of you guys.
Absolutely.
All of you. That we're still doing this. The fact that you guys are responding to the stories that we put on our website, that we talk about on our show, all of that is why we are doing this. We're not doing it just to get compliments. I mean, the compliments are nice, let's be real. But we're doing it because we love to engage with all of you.
Absolutely. And we say on every episode page, the webcast page, when we publish it, that you are important to us. And if you want to be a part of the show, if you want to be a part of our listener feedback, let us know. If you like something about the show, or even if you dislike something about the show, please let us know, because we're always, it's kind of, we do the same thing over and over and over again, and then it's kind of hard to break out of some of that stuff. But if you think that there's something more interesting we could do, or you don't like something about the show, let us know. You can look up our Facebook page as TG Squared Studios or TG Geeks Webcast, and you can comment on our episodes and the articles we publish. You can also comment on our YouTube episodes, as Lookie did, or at tggeeks.com directly on each one of the articles or episode, and you could receive a shout-out on a future episode. You can also call our listener feedback line, as Arkle and Crazy Joe have, and you can call that 469-TG Geeks. That's 469-844-3357.
Yes, the Force is strong with the Two Gay Geeks webcast.
Okay, I got one story/talking point, and this story did break the internet in a really big and very unhappy sort of way. Now, you've probably have heard me specifically talk about a project called Axanar that is being headed up by Alec Peters.
It's absolutely fabulous.
It really is. Axanar Studios had released a little prelude to Axanar, and this is about the Klingon War that is alluded to in a Star Trek episode, Whom Gods Destroy.
Yeah, it's a prelude, actually, too, or it's pre.
It's before the war.
Yeah.
Or early part of the war. Anyway, it was supposed to be like a documentary. It's fantastic. I think it might even be on YouTube right now. It's brilliant. It even starts.
They may have taken it down, actually.
They might have. It's very possible. I hope they haven't, but they probably have. It starred Richard Hatch, some very familiar faces. Tony Todd is in it. The actor who played General Martok.
Shoot.
Yeah, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
He's in it. He plays a human. But you've got these characters that they relate to a period that predates the original series. And Alec Peter himself plays Garth from Whom Gods Destroy. Anyway, they did this very, very successful prelude. It's just it's like about 20-25 minutes. It's brilliant.
Oh, it is great.
So they decided that they were going to actually make a feature film that was going to be about the real Klingon War that, I think they call it the 5 Years War. And so he turned to crowdfunding. First, he went to Kickstarter and then went to Indiegogo and just did several stages of crowdfunding and raised $1 million. Over $1 million.
Wow, that's incredible.
Well, Paramount and CBS Studios.
They got their knickers in a knot.
Oh, boy, did they ever. And I'm going to mention why I think is really going on. Anyway, they filed a copyright infringement against Axanar. We're going to have this story on the show notes, and it's a very sad read, I think.
Yeah.
And it's got a lot of fans divided. There are many people that are in Paramount and CBS's camp, while there are plenty people that are in Axanar's camp. It's the official statement that came from CBS or Paramount is that they felt that this was a copyright infringement on intellectual property.
Yeah,
But no, look,
Yeah.
Here's some of my problem with this. There has been a lot of fan-made content out there. You've got Star Trek Phase 2. You have Star Trek Continues. There's a lot of independent, that don't really deal with Enterprise or the crew, that deal with other starships like Starship Farragut. There was something that stars Walter Koenig where he's reprising his role as Chekhov in a series, an online series called Renegades. So there's a lot of content out there. It is all over the place. And now this happens.
Paramount and CBS and everybody else gets their knickers in a knot all of a sudden. And
it's the timing that I think is very, very suspect in all of this, because recently, and we did a story on this, Paramount released a trailer for the new Star Trek Beyond film.
Yeah, which was everybody,
virtually
was
everybody.
Widely panned, let's put it that way.
It was very, very widely condemned by not just Star Trek fans, but by just sci-fi genre fans in general. People jumped on it and trashed it and tore it apart. Even Simon Pegg publicly questioned it.
Well,
he had no say in this.
That's not what we were trying to make, the film we were trying to make.
Right.
I don't know what that trailer was about.
I don't know what that trailer was about. We think that Justin Lin, who was the director, who also did the Fast and Furious movies, decided that he was going to try to make Fast and Furious in space. And it doesn't look good. It looks terrible. So the fandom response was pretty bad. Meanwhile, fans are going ape over what Axanar could turn into. And I think it's that response that has got CBS/Paramount completely beschmeckled right now, and why they decided to issue this cease and desist order. Not because they really think that Star Trek is now infringing on what they're doing, but because of sour grapes. That's my take.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that the fan film is getting more love than their film that they're getting ready to release.
And Paramount.
And so it's just tit for tat.
Well,
it's
CBS.
It's horrible.
Paramount is, they have the movie rights. CBS has the TV rights. And CBS is also hugely under fire because they're going to be doing a new Star Trek series for 2017. And guess what? It's not going to be on the network, people. It's going to be available.
You have to pay for it.
You have to pay for it on their CBS app. That's got fans pissed off, too.
Yeah.
Paramount and CBS,
apoplectic.
They are making a bunch of bad choices. The fans are upset. And someone even points out that if Gene Roddenberry were alive, he'd be upset.
Yeah.
And I think they're right. I'm kind of waiting to see what Rod Roddenberry's going to say. I imagine he's going to have something to say about this in an upcoming podcast. He's in charge of a podcast called Mission Log. And he usually produces, he doesn't say anything, but I have a funny feeling that there's going to be some comment from him on there pretty soon. Anyway, this has got a lot of people very, very unhappy. Yeah. And there's even a big hashtag Twitter thing going on that's hashtag stand with Axanar. And it's gone more than viral. Yeah. The fans are just really behind them. And Alec Peters did issue a statement. I'm not going to read the entire thing, but it will be on our website in the show notes.
Yep. So check it out.
So check it out.
It's worth reading.
He simply writes that he was very upset that he got contacted by CBS in this way. He had hoped, because he had sat down and talked with the people at CBS and Paramount ahead of time, and they didn't say anything. He wanted to know, what am I doing that might cause a problem? And they didn't say anything. They didn't give him any specifics. CBS and Paramount are denying such a meeting ever took place.
I think it's a frivolous lawsuit myself.
I think it's going to be frivolous,
too. The problem is that they have deep pockets and Alec Peters does not. And so Axanar is probably never going to see the light of day.
Which is sad.
And it's going to make everybody mad. So
it's done more than that.
Take note.
It's done more than that. There are other independent Star Trek productions that are taking their content down because they're afraid of being pursued by the CBS Paramount lawyers.
Yeah.
But in any case, Alec is still
so see
very
how many
optimistic.
people show up to the new Star Wars or Star Trek film that Paramount and CBS are going to release.
Well,
and the online.
Yeah, Alec is he's trying to downplay it. He does simply say that, like everything related to Axanar Productions, we take this matter very seriously and remain open to discussing solutions with all parties that can be mutually beneficial. Alec Peters, they're still moving ahead. Yeah. They're not stopping, but he's got his lawyers, or Axanar Productions have got their lawyers. He's being personally sued in this, and I think that's tacky because I like the guy. But he and Axanar are personally being sued. He simply has been told not to say too much on advice of his legal counsel. But he did have that one statement, as I said. It will be on our show notes. Check it out. I mean, this is... man.
Yeah.
I don't want to call it.
Let's just leave it alone.
Yeah,
leave it there.
I wouldn't say it's the underbelly of fandom because it's not the fans' fault. But this goes to show that the Hollywood industry is just, at the end of the day, is only a business.
Yep. And we have a few follow-up items, as always. Be sure to check out Phoenix Comic-Con website. The hotels are available for booking, and memberships are available at a discounted price up through sometime this month in January. So keep checking phoenixcomiccon.com for updates.
Yeah, because they keep releasing blocks of rooms in some of the hotels.
So you might actually get something at the Hyatt across the street.
Yeah, which
we did.
Which we did! Woohoo! We're very happy. Also want to give some love to the Doctor Who fan cast guide, Doctor Who Talking Who, on Twitter. And their handle is @TalkingWho, where you can then see their daily press that they put out, because they do carry a lot of our stories, and we are enormously grateful.
Yes, thank
as
you.
well as good friend Brian Arker.
Brian Arker?
What the hell did that come from?
I don't know what that was.
I saw his handle is... I'll tell you how that happened. Man, that's cold medicine talking, people. Brian Weber. Oi. The thing is that
I hate when that happens.
Oh,
when
man.
You get a little dyslexic there.
Yeah, I really did. I every once in a while, especially if my brain is not really working on all thrusters, I will take two words and combine them together. Yeah. It's Brian Weber, and his Twitter handle is @Arkle. Brian Arker. I think we've got something there.
There you go.
We're gonna have.
You're gonna have to capture that, Brian.
Yeah, you capture that one. I think you got a winner there. Anyway, he puts out something called the Arkle Times Post Dispatch. He is on Twitter known as Social Justice Scald, and his actual address is @Arkle.
And I believe his most recent one was released yesterday, January 1st.
Yes, it was.
The 31st.
And
one or the other.
He carried our stories again.
Yay,
and again,
thanks, Brian.
we are very happy with that. We love you, Brian. And then lastly, we want to give a shout out to the Facebook group, The Gay Geek, for allowing us to post our episodes on their page. And their URL is facebook.com/group/The Gay Geek. Jeremiah Reeves.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I mean, you
you
really are just such an awesome guy.
We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Up next week. I haven't even thought that far ahead.
No. We just had to get through the end of the year and the beginning of this year.
Oh my gosh. We'll have something.
I'm sure
Who
we'll have
knows?
Oh, I know we'll have something.
Have something exciting. So stay tuned for more. Okay, that should do it for this episode of TG Geeks Webcast. Be sure to check out the article for this webcast episode, and we're going to have several links on that page, as well as the link to Alec Peters' statement. And remember, you can comment on the Facebook page or our website at tggeeks.com, or you can leave us a voicemail at 469-TG-GEEKS. That is 469-844-3357 from TG Squared Studios. I'm Keith Lane. Thanks for listening. I bid you peace.
Cheers, Archer.